I was thinking why I was not motivated. Blah, blah, blah. See, I'm rusty as hell making this video. Yeah, so as I was saying, I was thinking about why I wasn't motivated to make videos. I realized that making YouTube videos by myself was actually not that fun anymore. You see, actually having like people online be interested in what you do comes with some pressure. Like I thought that my, you guys audience was just going to be like, you come here, you watch a video, you get inspired, you learn something new, and then you go on your way, and then if you want to work with me, you just work with me. I thought that would be enough for me. But there was like this itch that I had that was like, I say I value community, but most of my work is done in isolation. Like, what can I do so that I'm actually, seeing the people that I want to be helping, like seeing you, right? Because sometimes I will get emails and DMs from you saying, you love my work and like it's really helpful, it's inspiring, and that's really cool. But I don't know who you are, and like you don't get to spend time with me. Like there's a disconnect, right? And so I was figuring out a way to, do this community thing. Like, how do you build a community? How do you actually do that in a way where it's like authentic and like you actually want people to be there, and it's not just because they're paying you, right? And so I was like, I used to do workshops. Why don't I just do those again and just make it free? Like no more like buy your ticket now, like only 10 spots, whatever. I did that in the past only because that's what I saw other people doing, not just like people in the creative industry, but just in general, anyone who has an online business in the education space typically does that. And I was not feeling it. I was like, no, I want this to be free. This information is stuff that I've been sharing for free anyways. What I want the value to be, the true value, is community and like spending time with other people. And so recently I held a workshop. It's been 2 years since the last one that I held. And before that, I held one in 2021, actually, when I first discovered that I could use crowdfunding sites to discover filmmakers and connect with them on Instagram. So, in some ways, I kind of went back where I started, and that was really cool. What changed was like my experience. Like I have done so much since the last time I held a workshop. So I was really excited to bring that. And then there were just so many new composers that I had not met before that showed up, and that was really rewarding as well. And some of them I do work with. So yeah, I was like really nervous going into it because I felt like the expectations were really high, at least, what I expected of myself, and knowing how much you guys like what I do. And so, yeah, like last weekend, we did it, I recorded it, and I'm gonna share it with you in this video. But before we do that, I forgot some things. I did not hit record at the very beginning of like the call. I actually did it like after the introduction because I suddenly remembered, oh shit, like I forgot to press the button. So here's what we're gonna do. I mean, you're already probably a fan of my YouTube channel, or at least familiar with what I do. But in case you're not, for some reason, in 2021, the pandemic was a thing. I was working full time as a scientist. I wanted to start a career of some kind in film and creativity, and I did not have time, and it was impossible to go to like in-person networking events or film festivals. And so, out of necessity, I had to use the internet to discover filmmakers and connect with them online. And plus, there weren't a lot of film productions going on during that time, so everyone was struggling in general. But desperate times call for innovative measures. So that's kind of where my journey started, right? And the three big things that I learned during that time was one, how helpful it would have been to specialize. This is something I learned later on, but it is kind of the foundation of everything that I do when I try and, choose a filmmaker for myself. I learned that people really come to me for coming of age, drama, and documentaries. And I found that I really enjoyed composing for those three things. And so I focused on that. The second thing was the secret sauce. Secret sauce. I had a natural curiosity for film and storytelling and just like a lot of things in general. Actually, I'm working on like another project thing right now, but it's probably I'll tell you later. But it involves lots of notebooks, so just like a I don't know, a sneak peek. But anyways, I took notes on lots of filmmaker advice content. I basically just had a lot of curiosity for the people that I wanted to work with, and I wasn't really watching composer content, so I feel like that was my special sauce. And then lastly, reaching out to filmmakers is just as simple as like find a filmmaker that you really admire and show them that you care. Write a really well written email or DM, and that's it. So with those things out of the way, I mentioned that I did workshops in the past. The first one I did, one of the composers there who is based in India, his name is Ravi. He ended up following my advice for 3 years or something, and he ended up scoring over 100 films. And he started a post-production company. That was the first time I was like, Cheska, your ideas mean something. Keep going. So yeah, and then the second time and the third time that I did a workshop was in 2024, and people really liked that as well. To sum up my philosophy, basically, I believe that if composers are creatively fulfilled, they have something to bring to the working relationship with a film director, that having, a connection is going to be a lot easier than if you depend on working with them for creative fulfillment. In addition, I believe that approaching networking with empathy and with the filmmaker in mind is absolutely essential. Like, I talk about this later on, but thinking like a filmmaker and really caring about who you work with has been such a helpful thing in my own career and also the composers I have helped. So, all in all, like the goal is for us to be able to build real relationships with filmmakers. And so the alternative is pretty obvious. I mean, if you're really desperate and you rely on being hired to fulfill yourself, it's going to be really tough to go into, the process of reaching out to filmmakers with a clear head. It is a very emotional process. Like, not getting replies, getting really close to someone hiring you, but then things not like just not working out. Like it's really a roller coaster. And I have discovered, working with different composers and also working on myself, that being creatively fulfilled is really, really, really important. It's like putting on your own oxygen mask before helping others. And so, to break that down a tiny bit more, in this workshop, we're really going to be focusing on the second component, like thinking like a filmmaker, empathy, and really thinking outside of the box. Because a lot of composers, whenever they think about meeting filmmakers, they just think about film festivals, networking events, mixers. But my experience was not that. Like, I did not have the luxury of going to events like that because when I first started, I was busy working. It was the pandemic, and there were no events, anyways. So I had to get creative, and that spirit of creativity is really an advantage, to be honest. So I hope to like share like that thought process with you. And like I said, the goal of this is to build a real relationship with a filmmaker. And there's a really cool idea from Luke Forsyth that I really admire here on YouTube. He's a documentary filmmaker. He talks about real value. And with all this AI shenanigans happening, it's just like so convenient to make images and media and remove the human part of art. And he says that lived experiences, unique points of view, taking emotional risks, and building a relationship with an audience are all things that technology cannot take away from us. And that is what real value is in this period of time with AI everywhere, slop everywhere. So I learned that from a video of his, and I just wanted to include it because I think it's really a really good idea to approach relationships, thinking beyond just your music. If getting work as a composer was just about who had the best music or who made music the fastest, yeah, we would not be in the world that we live in, right? Like that's not what people like real good filmmakers care about. At least the ones that I want to work with. And I'm sure you don't want to work with the ones that want you to make music instantly. Otherwise, they would just prompt like, Suno until they got what they wanted, right? So obviously, there's more to the relationship than just your music. So with all that being said, the point is that relationships really matter. You talk to any composer and they'll say like, oh, like they trusted me and like someone recommended me. Like all of that is built on relationships and trust. So instead of just like shrugging my shoulders and saying, yeah, like trust, build relationships. Like I'm actually going to show you how to do that and how to like put yourself in a situation where you can build a relationship with someone. So I think that covers it for the intro. Take it away, Workshop Cheska, and keep in mind, I was really nervous, and making YouTube videos does not translate into presenting in front of a live audience. So with that in mind, please enjoy, and bye. About why you should even try to think like a filmmaker. So 5 years ago, when I realized how I could start getting work, I realized that every time I was online, there was always like a filmmaker like promoting their film. I saw one day this woman, she like posted a crowdfunding like campaign on her story promoting a student short film. And I tried reaching out to the filmmaker, but I didn't get a response. But then I realized, oh my gosh, if I can go to where the filmmakers are, like promoting their films, sharing like behind the scenes, whatever, like I can actually reverse engineer that and like use Instagram as a way to connect with them. And so in my first 3 years, I ended up scoring my first film, my first feature film, and I also got to meet a lot of cool filmmakers, including someone who works at the Academy. And all of that I can trace back to using crowdfunding sites and Instagram. And over the years, I have since expanded my idea of using crowdfunding sites. Now I realize that anywhere that streams, curates, or supports film productions is a great place to find filmmakers. So this is by no means an exhaustive list, but so far I've used YouTube, Vimeo, film festival archives, filmmaker collectives, job listing sites, and also like, Netflix, Hulu, Prime, like anywhere that you watch film, you can find a name, you can use Google, you can find them on Instagram. But in this workshop, we're going to be focusing more on like YouTube, Vimeo, and crowdfunding sites, which are really easy to use. So how do you start actually thinking like a filmmaker? YouTube is such a great tool to learn about anything, but I think a lot of composers miss out on this. This is what my YouTube homepage looks like. For some of you, it may look like, entertaining videos or music production tutorials or, all sorts of things. But you can tell by looking at my homepage what I'm interested in. I have nature docs, indie film, verite docs, and just film in general. And what's really cool about this is I'm using YouTube's algorithm to serve me. I'm not, just entertaining myself. I am learning about filmmakers and how they think and like what it actually takes to have a successful career in the film industry. And so let's take an example. Let's say you want to work with a wildlife documentary filmmaker. Where do you start? You could use YouTube to look up how to film a wildlife documentary. And the underlying thinking of this search is you are a filmmaker looking to make their first nature documentary. And so you can see the video that popped up. Got a little Netflix logo. It's got a guy with a big camera, and it was posted by a channel called Documentary Film Academy. So now that sounds like a place where there are a lot of like entry level filmmakers trying to learn how to make documentaries in wildlife specifically. Now, the second video is actually made by my friend Zach. And when I typed in how to write nature documentary music, of course, that is from the perspective of a composer who wants to work on a nature doc. Now, you can see where this would start to branch off into like composer content versus filmmaker content. And a lot of composers, they realize, yay, I get to learn about like documentaries and like composing for documentaries, but they don't realize, oh, I could be watching documentaries and learning from filmmakers and, getting introduced to new people. And so as an experiment, I was like, what will the algorithm recommend me next? It recommended me this video. This exact show reel got me my first job as a BBC cameraman. So now I'm getting someone who's clearly experienced and is using YouTube as like a place to do, like promote their personal brand. And after that, the video recommended to me was this one, why your wildlife footage looks amateur and how to fix it. So now a pattern starts to emerge. The first video feels a lot more like early career, like we talked about, but the other two videos, they assume that the audience is already making documentaries and wants to get better or wants to branch out into wildlife. And so you can see quickly like how easy it is to learn about like a specific filmmaker you want to work with and discover different people. And so if you can get into the mind of the filmmaker that you want to work with and ask really specific questions, be really curious about that, there's really no limit to like how many different ways and how many different filmmakers you can discover. And now the specific steps to do that. So step one, we already talked about that, watching, films on YouTube, Vimeo, anywhere that streams, curates, or supports film. And then if you can also watch additional content like interviews, behind the scenes stuff, anything you can find about that film or that filmmaker. Step number 2 is to create a list and look for contact info, email or Instagram. And the key part of this step is to make sure that they are a good fit for you based on your music specialty, your experience level, and your goals. So if you're at the beginning of your journey, I know choosing a specialty is going to be a little challenging. So I would focus more on experience level then. Step number 3 is to write that, message to them and send it. And the goal is to just meet and introduce yourself. Step 4 is just to remind yourself that that is the whole point, like to meet them and introduce yourself. Getting work will be a byproduct of that. And if you aren't so focused on every single relationship paying off, you will be in a place where you're open to where the relationship will go. Sometimes you meet someone, they don't have work for you, but they recommend you to their friend. So just something to keep in mind. When I do this for clients, what I usually do is get to know, what kind of films really interest them, what kind of music do they really like, what is their goal in the long term. Elia is a composer I am currently working with. He is based in Germany. He has a pretty extensive music background, and he already has some film scoring experience. This is a picture of my notebook, and it shows my thought process looking for filmmakers. So Elia told me I want to work on animated films. I also really like historical documentaries. And I said, okay, let's try looking for, filmmakers in Germany, because if you can meet in person, that's great. So I tried to go that angle first. I looked up an animation collective in Berlin. I found someone, but they weren't really a fit creatively. I also tried to look up film festivals in Germany for documentaries. Those films didn't seem like a good fit for Elia. And then finally, I discovered German short films on YouTube. And I found this one filmmaker named Tim. And this is the film that I saw from him. And then it led to an interview. So you have step 1 here, watching the film and then watching any additional content. And I realized for Elia specifically, he really wanted to connect with filmmakers who also spoke German, because he found it challenging to express himself in English. And so when I found this filmmaker, I realized, oh my gosh, like YouTube is going to be easier for me because I don't speak German or have like a working knowledge of German film festivals. And I was able to discover a second filmmaker, also German, because the algorithm recommended him to me. And what really stood out to me about this discovery was the fact that he used the Sony FX30 camera. So this is something that I learned from being so interested in filmmakers and like what they do. I already know that the Sony FX30 is a really popular camera for solo filmmakers and people who travel and want to make cinematic vlogs. In fact, it's kind of like a whole format. Like people will do cinematic vlogs, Croatia, Hawaii, like any place, shot on the Sony FX30. And so knowing this, I realized, okay, that's a really cool way to discover filmmakers as well. And working with Elia, every month on the 15th, I compile research, kind of summarizing the filmmaker's background, what stood out to me. I try and give helpful tips on like how he can connect with them specifically. And I also link the YouTube videos so that he can watch their films before he talks to them. And so far, he has connected with both Tim and Merlin, which is awesome. But from there, it is Elia's responsibility to write the DM or email and then meet them on Zoom. And so now that you know in a nutshell, like what the process is like, I'll show you 2 specific message templates that you can use. This first one is good if you know for a fact that they are working on a project of some kind. So if you find a filmmaker on a crowdfunding site, for example. And the way that this works, you introduce yourself, you show that you've done your homework, you actually, give some kind of feedback on their film to show that you've actually watched it, or like if it's from a crowdfunding site, you've watched the trailer, you know what the film is about. And then instead of waxing poetic on like why you're so moved by their film, just immediately say, you know, this is why I'm reaching out. I'm wondering if you need a film composer. And then from there, if you've worked on similar projects in the past, give them proof. So list, you know, specific projects that are relevant to them. And if you don't have any previous projects, you can link music that is relevant to them. And then at the very end of this email, you want to give them the next step, which is to get on a call with you. The second kind of message you can send is more open-ended. And the way that it works is pretty similar, except you are going to front load the social proof. So instead of like making them read the whole email to see what kind of projects you've worked on, you place that closer to the top. And the goal is the same. You try to get them onto a Zoom call. If you guys want to take a screenshot of this later, just let me know at the end and we'll come back to this. But we are now ready for a demo, and my friend Nolan is going to help me. So Nolan has only done this once before, but I want you to imagine that you are in his shoes, and I'm going to guide Nolan through the process. And you're going to hear Nolan talk about, you know, what is standing out to him on the page, and then you guys will get a chance to apply it.
Okay. Hello, I'm Nolan. I'm her friend. I'm gonna try to work through this with you guys. So what do you want me to do first?
Okay. So let's do Kickstarter first. So for those of you who are at the beginning of your career, like you don't have any experience, this one is going to be for you.
So I think I'm gonna just look up. I'm gonna try animated, if I can spell it right. Correct. How do you spell animated? Animated, whatever. Doesn't matter if I spell it right. Okay, look that up and see if I can find anybody that's working on a short film currently. I might have to spell it right. Mm,
So what Nolan is
that
doing
one?
right now is looking at the thumbnails to see if there's something that jumps out to him and looks like the kind of project that he wants to work on.
Okay.
So Nolan, right now, there's like a
Yeah,
lot
I'm
of
not
things
really
that
seeing
aren't animated
anything.
films.
Yeah.
Can you click on the film tab, like in the little tab
Right.
bar? Yeah.
That would help. There we go. Ooh. Ooh. Ooh.
So this one
That
is by a
looks
studio.
cool. What the heck?
So it's by a studio. And then hold on, Nolan, slow down.
Hey,
So go back to the top.
pardon. Got excited.
Okay, so there's a couple things that are standing out to me right here. Number one, this is posted by a studio. So I'm expecting that they already have a composer on board. And it looks like they have about a quarter million raised in funds, which is really cool. That's pretty normal for like independent animation. It's pretty expensive. But let's do a quick search to see if they do have a composer. So if you use the short command, Command F, you can look up if they have a composer or not. So we typed in composer, nothing came up. Let's try typing in music. Nope. So
Oh. Oh.
so there's nothing mentioned, but that doesn't mean that they don't have a composer. So at this point, if you are a beginner composer, you would have to think like, okay, do I have enough experience to be on this project? Like, am I going to be a risk to this studio, like working on a project for the first time? So you have to think about that. Let's pretend we watch the trailer. Sometimes they'll list like who did the music or like what the different, roles are at the end. So let's play the video and scroll to the end. See if there's any. Okay. So let's full screen that and see if we can find out who's doing the music. Oh, yep, they got the composer right there.
Dang.
Music, Yi Hung. So you see how quickly we figured out like, okay, we know that they have a composer already. That's kind of like the first step of doing this, like figuring out if there is space for you as a composer. So this is a good first attempt for Kickstarter. If you are a beginner composer, like I said, this is what you're going to use for the exercise. So good job, Nolan. That one didn't lead anywhere, but that's okay. Let's do Vimeo next.
Vimeo. Okay,
Okay,
and you
so
want to
for
make sure you
Vimeo,
go to Vimeo/watch. If you just do normal video Vimeo, it won't take you to this page, and this is where you'll find all of the helpful like films that'll just kind of pop up immediately.
hmm okay, Nolan,
Yeah,
do your thing and then talk
I
about what you're doing.
okay. So I had checked this out once before, and I know that there's a film or animations tab. There, okay, there's documentary here. There's Shrek, and okay, where is films? Would that be in categories?
Yeah, try it.
Okay. Categories. Comedy, narrative, documentary. Okay. Animation. Okay, that's what I'm looking for.
hmm
I'm looking for some animation stuff and maybe looking for some maybe mid to lower view count videos, perhaps. I guess I could still go for a high one. That one looks interesting. Might as well check this out. Okay. And I guess do you want me to just skip and see if they got a composer for this? Would
Yeah,
that
you
be
can
of
do
use
that,
to us?
or you
Okay.
can look in the description of the Vimeo video, actually.
Also true.
Yeah, so click on more and let's
Credits.
see.
Oh, do they not have, wait. Do they not
Ooh,
have one?
okay, so this looks, oh, sound design and music. Oh, it's
Oh,
lumped in with
oh.
the sound designer.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
Okay. So although we are kind of like ruling people out based on whether they have a composer or not, actually my experience has been that filmmakers sometimes don't work with one composer all the time. Sometimes their go-to guy is busy and they're open to other relationships.
Mhm.
So for the sake of the exercise, let's say you really like this filmmaker and you want to find their contact information. How do you
Oh,
do that?
dang. I love this guy so much. I want to find out more about him. I want to find out more about her. Pardon. There's an email right
Yep,
here. So
right
we can
there.
copy this and paste it into my email, which I won't do right now.
hmm
Um, but theoretically, right there,
Yep.
contact information.
How would you learn more about her as a filmmaker?
I could also look for her on Instagram. I could watch some more of her short films, see if does she have any background processes?
Does she have a website? Did you see a link for her website?
Oh, right there.
There you go.
Ooh, this is beautiful.
Yep. So now you
I
have
bet
everything you
you
need to learn about her and reach out to her if you
right
want.
here. Yo, cool.
hmm
There you go.
Cool. And that's
You
how
know
you
what I want.
use Vimeo.
All right. And do you want to do YouTube?
Yep. Let's do
All
YouTube.
right. Okay. I want
So
to look up.
this is more advanced, I would say, because it's kind of like hit or miss. Like you have to kind of discover things on your own. So, Nolan, think about a filmmaker you want to work with and like what kind of video you want to watch.
I'm thinking of doing something a little bit different. I would like to try. See if I could find anything. Making my first game. Let's see if we could find anything with a slightly lower view count. Okay, well, there's one. Oh, this looks fun. Let's
Yeah,
check this
click on
guy
it.
out. Okay.
Okay, so let's pretend you watched it and you really
Oh,
liked it.
that was so good. I can't. That
hmm
was just so good.
Now
Let's see
find
this
his
guy.
email
Blue Sky. View email address.
and then
I'm
do
not a
the.
robot. Oh boy. Uh-oh. Let's see if I can. Oh, okay. To do it automatically, please. Yes. Okay. There we
There you
go.
go.
Email
So
right there.
now you have everything you need. Like theoretically, you would watch his YouTube videos and learn more about him and like his games. Looks like his game is Shroud of Gloom. So you may even want to check out his game on Steam and maybe even play it to see if you like it.
Dude, that looks cool.
hmm So now you have everything you need. So now I can see you're really invested in him, and you see how quickly like you found him just like on your first try. So it's not only about like that first filmmaker you discover, but like where that next filmmaker leads you. So on like your YouTube algorithm is going to pick up on the fact that you like him, and then they're going to show you more like similar filmmakers or game developers like him. Yep, very good. Now it is your guys' turn to do it. So I'm going to paste in the chat the links for the 3 different platforms that we just went over. If you are a beginner, you've never composed for a film before, or like you have just very little experience in general, go on Kickstarter and try searching the film tab for a project you are interested in. And then for Vimeo and YouTube, if you have more experience, just choose between the two, depending on which one you're more interested in. And we're going to set a timer for 10 minutes. And when we come back, I'm going to randomly pick one of you to share the filmmaker that you found. Okay? So let's pull up a timer and go. Okay, 10 seconds left. If you haven't found a filmmaker, it's okay. There we go. Okay, I'm gonna pick one of you, and I would love for you to share who you found. Ella, you're up.
Sure. So I did the Vimeo challenge. I looked in narrative at first and I found two short films that looked really interesting. Both listed the director and then they had the website and like I saw the director's name, Googled it, got an Instagram and a website.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was one that was an LGBTQ story. So then I was like, okay, maybe I'll just write LGBTQ films in Vimeo, and I got a few more like interesting results. And for everyone, I found a website, which I know isn't always the case, so that was cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I read a little bit about their bios and stuff. And I mean, so right now I have in front of me like four films that I obviously haven't had a time to watch, but they all look very interesting.
That's
And I have
awesome.
contact info for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions about that process, or do you feel like it's pretty clear?
I think it's pretty clear. I actually once did this with Vimeo staff picks, which is also like you can find really good
Yep.
stuff there. I know it has like a different URL, but I can't remember what it is. I don't know. Nolan, do you know what it is? No, okay.
I'm not sure, but Vimeo recently, I guess like within the past year or so, like changed it so that their homepage, like it wasn't as easy to just watch films right away. We had to type in /watch to get to that watch
Yeah, that's
page.
what I did. It's weird.
Yeah, it's really weird. But I'm glad you found like so many different options and like that you could quickly do that.
Yeah, I did start with the YouTube. I was like, let's try that. And it was a little complicated, so I went to Vimeo, but I don't know if anyone else here tried the YouTube thing, but
Yeah, did anyone try YouTube? No, that's okay. Oh, David, did you try? Want to share what you found, David?
Hi, can you hear me?
Mhm.
Yeah, I did YouTube because Vimeo wasn't working for me because I did Vimeo/watch, but I don't know. I'm in Europe, so it put me directly to a thing called the European Film Academy. Like it would automatically
Interesting.
redirect. So I don't know. I'd have to spend some time digging because I know Vimeo is. I mean, a lot of filmmakers really like Vimeo because the
Yeah.
quality is good and it has this kind of slightly more upscale kind of, feel about it. So I'll have to figure out how to find the actual watch pages. So I went with YouTube. Cheska and I work together. So Cheska, you already know this, but I work on usually documentaries and more about current affairs, politics, and so on. So I tried in a variety of search terms. I did, I have to remember all the ones I put in. There's like a thing. Yeah. I put in how to make an indie documentary, how to make an indie documentary film. I put in indie war documentary, and the last one I was on was political documentary filmmaker, and that seemed to be the best search term so far. And I found a couple of people. Same, I haven't obviously had the time to watch the films, and I don't know if they're like totally a good film, totally a good fit. There are like people, they're like saying giving advice to other filmmakers about how to make a film, but they're not necessarily making a lot of films themselves.
That's
They're
true.
more like selling themselves as like a like a filmmaking guru, and And I mean, it's the same as for composers. There are people that they're like self-proclaimed
Yeah.
people, and they're making a business out of like selling the how to do side rather than actually making the films. So I
Yeah.
have a feeling maybe a couple of them. No, so I try to steer away from those. Maybe they're interesting, but that's not really what we're looking for. I found somebody that's made films for a lady called Emily K. Stoker. I think she's English, and she's made films for BBC, National Geographic, Channel 4, who I worked for. So that's, maybe but it doesn't like, I think she might be more like a DOP. I'm not really sure. I'll have to look
Yeah.
into
So
it.
you
She's
mentioned
made
a
a
lot
couple of
of great points.
small films. She's made a couple of small films, yeah.
Yeah, a couple of things I want to extract from what you just said. Number one, like the content being, a way to promote like the guru filmmaker stuff. That is a really good point. But there are also people who have their passion projects that aren't necessarily on YouTube. So a little bit more research will help clarify whether that is truly the case or not. Most people like have some kind of experience to like base those advice on.
Of course.
So that's just something to keep in mind. And then the other thing is the fact that you found someone who has worked for the same like companies as you. That's a really good sign. A lot of filmmakers, if they can give advice and like give back to the community, YouTube is usually the place that they will do it. So you will find all sorts of like different experience level of filmmakers. Yeah, so I'm really happy that you guys were able to use the different platforms. We will end on some case studies and then answer any questions you guys have. So I told you a little bit about the first composer I worked with, Ravi. He went to my first workshop ever. And back then, he didn't know where to find filmmakers, how to contact them. And he used social media to post rescores and hope that someone would contact him. That is something I tried in the past too, but I found it really really frustrating, like just waiting for someone to find me. And so once he learned all the things that you guys learned today, he started to outsource his outreach process to, a small team of people, and they would do the research for him, collect the contact information, and help him reach out to different filmmakers. So to date, he has worked on over 100 films since 2021. And he has also started a post-production company in India, which is pretty awesome. What I learned from him is how important it is to trust the process, even if you don't see results right away. So although it may seem like really straightforward, what we just did today, it's going to take time for you to get replies and to meet people and for the time to like the timing to line up for them to be on a project and to be able to hire you. Another key point is he struggled for the first 1 to 2 years to land work consistently. He told me that he invested a lot more time into growing himself as a person. And that's definitely something I had to do as well, because who you are today, it's going to change once you start working on films and meeting different people. A second composer I worked with is Charlie. He's based in London. He's primarily a sync music and trailer composer. And we did mentorship back last year. Yeah, last year. And he wanted to have like a roadmap to, connect with more filmmakers. And after working with me, he started connecting with a bunch of different filmmakers via email and Instagram. And he actually got to score his first feature by connecting with a filmmaker he found on Mandy.com, which is a job listing site. But what's really unique is that he didn't apply for the job. He reached out to the filmmaker directly by looking them up. So another example of like how creative you can get with this. What I learned from him is that being consistent with outreach doesn't mean you have to do it all the time. It's actually really exhausting to constantly find new people, collect that research, and force yourself to reach out to them. And I also learned from him that there's a real need for support and networking. This is why I do what I do. This is why I work with David and other composers like Charlie. Composers just want to make music, but I have this really weird skill of like using the internet and like being really interested in other people and film. And so it's really rewarding to work with composers like Charlie and do this. And lastly, I worked with my friend Zach. You might know him. He's done music for pretty much every big company you've heard of, and he has a passion project called The Call of Ravens Hollow. And before we started working together, he had stable composing work already, but he stopped reaching out to new people, and he was curious to see what would happen if he started meeting new filmmakers. And working together, we discovered how his passion project was a really great way to connect with new people. And I found a animation director and TV writer named Leslie, and I noticed that her art style was very similar to Zach's music, very like dark, fantasy, folk-like. And so I compiled that research. I introduced Leslie as an artist to Zach, and he reached out to her. And they ended up really hitting it off. And we learned that Zach's in a place where networking is a lot more intentional and open-ended in value, whereas composers at the beginning of their career, it's with the hope of getting, work. But the cool thing about Zach is that now he has a relationship with an artist that he can benefit from, not just like being hired onto our project, but by exchanging their skill sets. So Zach is actually planning to make music for Leslie's projects, and Leslie's planning to animate visual content for Zach's stuff, which is really, really cool. But it's not always about getting work. Sometimes it's just about the relationship and like different ways you can exchange value. And I just want to end on acknowledgement that while everything we talked about today is, things you can control, there's also a lot of things you can't control. And I really like this quote by Matt Porwall, who is a cinematographer. He talks about a collection of miracle moments. And I thought about this, and I was like, all the outreach and all the research that we do, it's still useful. Like, even though there's a lot you can't control, focusing on what you can do to meet people and work on projects that you love, that's all you can do. So everything we talked about today fits into that category. The uncontrollables, the things I cannot promise you or anyone can promise you, with no matter what strategy they teach you. No one can promise you that you're going to make X amount of dollars or you'll get work within a certain, time period. They can't promise who is going to reach out to you, and whether all the stars align, right? But if you focus on that, it's really easy to get caught in the weeds. And so I just want to remind you today that what we're focusing on is what you can control. And the rest is up to the universe, I suppose. And the hope is that all of these things will align. You put in the work and you give luck a chance to find you, and your dream comes true. But that's pretty much it for this workshop. In summary, we talked about networking from the perspective of a filmmaker, approaching it with empathy, and really challenging yourself to look for different ways to connect. We also talked about, my hypothesis of like being creatively fulfilled, why that matters and it makes you more valuable to connect with, and also, what a genuine relationship is in the film industry. And then you guys, put into practice the 4-step process. You learned how to use different platforms to learn about films and filmmakers you're interested in, how to make a list, find contact info, reach out to them, and start a relationship. Do you guys have any questions? Now is the time.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I think, first of all, when you showed us the two options of like, one was the 2 messages, I think you skipped the second one. So I don't know if maybe it was like in there, like you showed it for a second and then it disappeared. But I guess my question is for the Vimeo. If let's say I like a director's work and I reach out to them, for the first email, would you say is it better to just kind of introduce myself and say like I love this about your work, blah blah blah, or to also say if you ever need music or like something like that, here's a show reel of things that I will like particularly make for them. Like, what do you think is the better approach for that first email?
I'm really glad you pointed out that I might have like skipped over the second template, because that's exactly the situation, the template I would use in your situation.
Yeah. So this is the one we saw, and then the second one, I think.
Yeah. This one is the second one.
Oh, so maybe so maybe
Yeah.
I just missed the first one. Okay. So I was I was referring to the other one. Or maybe I just missed it.
It's okay.
Sorry.
The first one is if you know that they have a project. So in your situation, you found their film on Vimeo and you don't know if they're on a project. So in that case, we would use this email.
Okay.
Instead of just like showing them like a general show reel, it would be better for you to mention like very specific projects that you've worked on in the past that align with things that they do. And then if you can, send them a specific reel that's like catered to their film, so that they don't have to like go through a bunch of irrelevant music to figure out if you're like the right fit for them artistry wise. Does that make sense? Yeah. And then if you guys want to take a screenshot of these, here's the first one. If you know they are working on a project, if you know you found their stuff on a crowdfunding site. Okay. And then the second one, if you don't know if they're working on a project or not, which is going to be usually the case. So Vimeo, YouTube, anywhere else.
So Cheska, I don't know if I'm the only one who's seeing this, but I only see the one that says how it works, and then the other template, it just kind of switches back to this one. So the other template that you were showing, do you guys see it? Did you see the other template?
Yes. Are we nodding yes?
Oh, you did. So okay, so that's weird.
That's all right. I can send it to you afterwards if you'd like, because
that would be amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions, guys?
Yeah, I had one.
Yeah.
Actually, a good camera. Definitely got some great tidbits of information out of this, so that's really good. So the one thing, I'm kind of nestled in this weird starting out / mid area, because I've done some stuff, but it's been a while and whatever. But anyway, so to my question, I started looking on like crowdfunding sites, and I found them to be a bit, well, challenging, let's say, because because it seems like if you've ever crowdfunding anything, it just stays there for like ever. So you can find stuff from literally like a decade or more ago that's just like sitting on there. So you have no idea whether or not, this person is even doing anything. And, given the industry, chances are pretty good they might not be. So I'm just kind of thinking like, what sort of another way to approach crowdfunding? Because I mean, I've done a little bit of Vimeo, YouTube. Like I like sci-fi, so like the Dust channel on YouTube is really good. So I can do that. But I have other genres too. So I'm finding YouTube is good, Vimeos. But the crowdfunding, I always found like I literally spent like hours, and hours at one point, and just was like, I don't know what to do. But it's just this endless void of like tons of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, crowdfunding sites change every day. It's like an easy way to get started, but it's still pretty limiting for the reason that you just said. They don't actually clear out the campaigns that have passed, and so it's only really good for finding things that are currently active. I found it's not really great for finding projects that have been finished and like using it as a way to discover new filmmakers. I find Vimeo to be better, especially since the filmmakers are higher quality and they tend to work in like commercials, ads, music videos sometimes. Yeah, crowdfunding sites is just a good place to start, but based on what you said about your situation, I would just stick to YouTube and Vimeo and film festivals even.
Yeah, yeah, because I also found some of their filtering is not like really the
It's not
best.
good. Yeah, it's not.
It's really
It
bad.
does.
So, but okay, yeah, that's cool. I mean, I kind of moved off of that, but I was just wanted to see if there was anything I was missing, but I guess not.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I will add, crowdfunding sites tend to have the most new campaigns during the springtime because a lot of the filmmakers there are student filmmakers. So if anyone here is like, I'm looking to work on my first film, this time of year leading into the summer is a really great time because there's always like something new on the site.
yeah, cool. Sounds good. Thanks.
Any other questions? Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, can I talk? Yeah. I had something to say, which was not really a question. It was more, I wanted to share my experience of working with Cheska because, I don't know about you guys, but the whole thing of being a composer and looking for films to score is like a huge question that lots of people, there's lots of stuff out there, and I even like went on some short courses, and I just wanted to say that before I worked with Cheska, it's like I felt like I had all the theoretical knowledge in a way about how to go and find films. But we've only been working together for like 3 months. It's still early days, but I think that for me anyway, having somebody that kind of holds my hand, takes me through every process, and it's specifically tailored to who I am, what I've worked on before, what kind of projects I'm looking for, etc. It's been like a real icebreaker for me. I mean, that's just my personal story because it's just, I just felt like I was groping in the dark because until you have something that's really tailored to specifically who you are and what you're doing, the information is like very generic, obviously, I mean, it has to be. So I just wanted to throw that in the in the pot because it's really helped me like push past that. And I think that at some point then I'll be able to like go and and carry on my research on my own. But it's just like pushing past that point of like that there's so many ways to and so many there's just so much advice out there. I know that's all I wanted
Yeah,
to say.
thanks for sharing that, David. I will add that I consider internet brain like an occupational hazard because like you're spending so much time online and it's like, oh, my brain is starting to turn into goo and there's just so much noise to filter through. So one of the things that I'm doing to make this sustainable for myself and the composers I work with is to actually do this whole process in like small bursts. Like I don't do this every day. I do not recommend doing what we talked about every day. It's like a recipe for burnout. And I mean, there's so many different tools nowadays to like automate these things, especially with AI. But what we talked about today is really about the human to human, like slow process of like getting to know someone and like being very intentional about who you reach out to. And in the, digital world that we're in today, I think in person is going to be, more important than ever. So if possible, trying to meet filmmakers locally, but also using the internet to help you discover people, especially when you are you're not able to travel or you don't have like access to in-person events. Like this is where what we talked about can be really, really useful. I just wanted to add that because I don't want you to get the impression that you have to do this like every day and grind to see results. Like it's a slow process. And working with David, it's really exciting that we're already, starting to get like replies from filmmakers, but it did take quite a while to make sure that we found the right person and that we approached the relationship with the right intentions. So, yeah. Any other questions before we end?
I have a hopefully quick question for you.
Yeah.
In terms of finding like your specialty, I've worked on a bunch of different types of projects, and I also did gave myself like a composing challenge a couple years ago for like every letter of the alphabet I would like compose for like an activity. So that like resulted in a bunch of different, I guess, genres of types of music. So I'm having a hard time narrowing like what I should be looking for or what would be a good fit. 'Cause I feel like I've done a bunch of different things that could, apply to a lot of different types of projects.
So you're trying to figure out like how to specialize and like how to figure that out?
I guess figure out like what my specialty is, because like I've done a lot of stuff. There has to be a common thread in there somewhere.
Yeah. One question I would ask yourself is what is the music that comes naturally to you? What are the kinds of projects that you really enjoy working on? I didn't really figure out what my specialty was until I looked back and realized, oh, coming of age seems to be like the go-to thing that people keep asking me for, and that is a pattern that doesn't emerge until you look back and like over time you see who is reaching out to you for what. So does that bring up anything to mind?
I guess I've worked on like some dark comedies and like sci-fi type stuff. And
Do
that's
you
always
enjoy doing
fun.
that?
Yeah, I do.
So
I
that might
guess
be
there's my
something to lean
answer.
into. Any other questions? We're just going to keep this really casual. I'm okay with staying on for another 10 minutes if needed.
Sorry, I had a quick question about you talked about using AI. Can you explain a little bit more about like what are you doing with AI and how you're using it?
Yeah, currently I only use AI to create summaries because that's a pretty easy task that doesn't require any creativity really. It's better than copy and pasting from like different sources. I use it to kind of just, condense everything together and paste it. Other than that, I have not found AI to be very helpful in my like process. It's not really great at like finding people based on like how good a film is, because like AI doesn't understand like what a good movie looks like or feels like. It just knows like text, find this word. Bye, Hannah. So yeah, so far just summaries, nothing crazy, and like grammar and like what is another way to write this email, simple things like that. Yeah. Any other questions, guys?
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes. Hello, Sean.
Jessica. Hey, everyone. Sorry, I'm using Voice Meter, so I had some problems. Thank you so much. This has been really cool. And I see there's a few people here that I know from other groups. So, hey, Dominique, and Mike. When you reach out to new film developers or film producers, are they very judgmental? And like our portfolios are generally AI generated, or like in my case, I use stock film footage for my little songs and stuff that I write. Is that a no-no when you're meeting new film directors? Do they judge us heavily on that and say, "Oh, your videos are crap. We don't want to work with you. Go away." Do they do that?
That's a genuine concern because filmmakers are visual people. I get what you're saying. In my experience, I've never had to really show like a video. It's always been about the music. And what I, have on my website or like on social media, like the different things they can piece together about me as a person, and not the films I work on. Like I really only have like film posters to show people like just visually like what kind of films I usually work on, which is coming of age. I've never sent a reel with like videos or anything. I find it much more helpful to send like project specific reels. So like if you are approaching a producer or director that, does a lot of sci-fi stuff, it makes more sense to send like a sci-fi dedicated reel and not something that has like quirky rom-com and epic fantasy orchestral. Like just show them that like you are paying attention to what matters to them, and the rest, the visuals, that doesn't really matter. Just let your music speak for itself. Okay.
Oh,
I guess that's it.
I don't have a question. I just wanted to end on one thing. just in terms of reaching out and like being worried about success and things, one of my very first attempts at reaching out to anybody was Cheska, and like she sent me back a really kind reply, and we hit it off immediately. And I'm not wanting to say that that could happen for everybody, but I just wanted to say that it can happen, because it happened for me, so it can happen for you guys too.
Yay! Thank you for coming, and hopefully we can see each other in a future event. Okay? Yippee! Bye, guys. Have a good day or night.
Yeah, bye bye.
Bye bye. Yippee!